me see. What's good with the YouTube? You already know Big Flacco from a convict's perspective, and I'm gonna smash, dash, and slide on through that little bit of energy. And check this out. I got the very gifted, talented, sexy, beautiful, best attorney in California that they have, Sheila Moshini. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you. It's a nice
Yeah, doing great.
introduction.
Yes. I got a promoter though. Hey, so first and foremost, we've had her on the show before. She's been tapped in with me for about what 2 years almost now, huh?
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Almost 2 years and stuff. Man, she's really came into this field really passionate about believing in her clients, believing in trying to help bring criminal reform and justice to a lot of people in certain communities that are being railroaded basically by the system, especially in right there where you practice mainly. But you practice, okay, this is something that she wants me to address. She takes cases from LA all the way down to Sacramento. She's taking all cases, and she specializes in gang cases. She also has a gang investigator that you guys all know that's been on the show, Jesse De La Cruz, and a couple other people who assist her at times in these cases. And she's been very victorious in a lot of these cases recently. So take us through the early stages of your career in this.
Well, early stages, actually, I wanted to be a DA, actually, in the very beginning. That was my dream. And then, as I was deciding and going towards that route and interviewing at several DA's offices, scored really high. I just decided, I kind of had some experiences where I saw people that had been convicted of crimes that had not, weren't able to get jobs, that were basically shunned by society. And these were some of the hardest workers I had seen. And it really opened up my eyes. There was a lot of life experiences in a short amount of time that I think actually now put me on the right path to now going into defense. So I moved from Los Angeles to Central California, Visalia, to work as a criminal defense lawyer. I ended up going on my own after a few months. It just didn't see eye to eye. And I really like being able to be choosy with my cases and really take the cases that I'm most passionate about. So that's where I've been for the last 2.5 years. I've had my own firm. I take cases, like you said, all over California. I love being able to do that because it's about the case for me, and can I connect with the case? What do I feel like I can do with the case rather than the location of it? So it's been great so far. It's been a lot of experience in a short amount of time, especially seeing the variation between so many different counties. But I feel that a lot of my craziest cases are right here, and that's where I feel like I've really been needed a lot of the times, is more so in this area, because this is where I feel like people are just more likely to be oppressed and railroaded and being, feeling like they have to take a plea rather than actually being able to fight their case. And I have so many good cases where my clients have, some of them have priors, and they just took deals right before preliminary hearing because they thought, okay, well, I'm charged with the crime. And I've looked at their cases and I've been like, no, you actually have a fight here. It's just, do you want to fight this? Because I want to fight it, but I also have to, my clients have to want to fight too, but it's been great so far.
I got a really good question that's going to shock you right now. Let's see what you think about this. So there's been the end to all hostilities, right? Mm-hmm. Now, after the end of all hostilities, they've been doing this new reintegration. They've been taking known enemies and forcing them on the yards. There's been a lot of riots, a lot of melees. They had 150 bulldogs got rushed by, 15 bulldogs got rushed by 150 inmates. Administration knows what they're doing. They're taking people off that are active, putting them on SNY. As an attorney, what type of case do they potentially have here? Because I see this as a massacre that's going to continue to happen. I mean, they're putting people in situations to where bloodshed is going to happen, and someone's going to eventually lose their life. What is your opinion?
I think at the very least, because this isn't the first I've heard, and I've heard of guards opening doors when they're not supposed to. If someone they've had a vendetta, or someone's had a vendetta against them or caused some issues, and they know what they're doing. And at the very least, in my opinion, it's negligence. But I think it sounds to me as more willful, and they should be held accountable, because there's been cases that I have been called for where I don't believe incidents would have even occurred had guards done what they were supposed to do. But it really just takes people being ready to fight back and expose these type of things that are happening, or it's not going to stop. So if people know that they have a fight for, and they're just taking a plea, well, then it's going to continue to go uncovered. But the more people that actually fight these type of things, the more exposure it can get. And then maybe there can be changes where it'll actually stop.
Yeah. Because I have a hard time like understanding that some of these people that are enforcing these policies, some of them are just Sacramento paper pushers, right?
Right.
Couple have experience though, and it's like they know what's going to happen.
Right.
And it's
They know.
like they're taking a harsh angle. And I thought part of their department operations manual is for them to safeguard every inmate at every institution. That's
right.
part of their rule.
Right.
So I feel like there's a breach of their own regulations and stuff. And I'm just wondering what type of case do they potentially have, man? Because
I think definitely a civil suit, if you can connect the harm back to the defendant, which would here be like a guard or someone that's employed there. If you can connect that harm back there to that person, then you potentially have a civil suit. If you can show that this wouldn't have happened had this person acted in accordance with their job duties, then that's where your case is at,
But here's the question, right? This is how they beat the case, the Corcoran shootings. You've heard about that, right?
No.
The way they beat it, okay, in Corcoran, back in the days, they were doing the reintegrated guards and they were putting you out there with known enemies, and people were getting shot and killed, right? The way they beat this, the feds, they got indicted on federal charges. Every guard beat that case because, you know why? Because they were following department operations manual. They knew what was going to happen, but they were enforcing the policy that the corrections was giving them. So it's kind of like, it's how they cover their ass.
Right. Yeah, it's hard, especially if they all band together, and I've heard of situations even where guards or even police officers have all come up with the same story, and that could be a problem too, because then it's their word against the inmate. And you start sometimes, and I feel like, and this is where sometimes with my clients or people that I speak to, they know that they start, and I know that I start with the presumption that I'm a criminal defense attorney, so I'm lying. And then they're an inmate, so they're lying. But it's really not supposed to be about that. And I still think that enough, more people need to come forward in numbers, and then maybe there could be a change. And one of the things I was told one time, it was actually by Dr. De La Cruz, and I was on my way to a particular county, and I had a motion that I knew was recognized by law. And it's just, sometimes it's like, certain things happen the way that they do, and it might not be based on the law, that you get denied or you get closed doors. But I remember Dr. De La Cruz telling me, he was like, even if it gets denied, he was like, do you know how many, you can't stop at a no. Do you know how many people, if you just stop at one no, you're never going to get to that success. You have to keep pushing, because eventually it's going to make a difference. And so now I think about that, as I'm going to some of these counties where it's political, and I know that what I'm arguing is backed by law, and I know that I have a good argument, and sometimes I still lose. But I just keep remembering that I have to keep going, because eventually it's going to get to a point where, it's going to be a different result.
Can you discuss some of the things that you've tried to file motions on? Have you gone to the federal court with it as well?
Not federal court. I had a motion where I filed, and it was a motion to dismiss. And if you file a motion to dismiss, typically you have one opportunity to file it, and then you can preserve it for appeal. So if it gets denied, you can bring it up on appeal. So yeah. I found, and it's after the preliminary hearing typically, so I found a loophole where I could file a motion to dismiss before the preliminary hearing, and then I could file it after. So I was like, well, why wouldn't I file it twice? So I had a gang case where, sometimes with some of my gang cases, it's more what I would argue character evidence to bolster what's a weak case, with the rest of the evidence. So I'm being told, I need to go to the preliminary hearing, and I'm being pushed to go to the preliminary hearing. I have no gang evidence. I have no gang contacts for my clients. I have no FI cards. I have nothing. So how am I supposed to cross-examine the gang investigator at the preliminary hearing? Because they never come with any notes, which of course is, I would argue, on purpose. But so I was I filed this motion to dismiss because I said I can't go forward with this case. It needs to be set aside because you're alleging a gang enhancement, which makes this life, but then you're not going to give me the evidence I need to be confident, a competent and adequate, give my clients competent and adequate representation. So that was the day I talked to Dr. De La Cruz. I go before the judge. He basically tells me that it's so ridiculous that I even filed the motion and that he can't teach me how to be an attorney, and it just going off, and he's not. And I said, okay, with all due respect, Your Honor, just because you have, oh, in 26 years, he's never seen this motion. And then I said, okay, with all due respect, Your Honor, just because you haven't seen this motion doesn't mean it's not backed by California law. And I gave him my case law and immediately said nothing. He immediately said nothing because I was right. So he still denied it, but I still preserved my client's rights for appeal, because if you're not going to give me the gang evidence or the evidence that my client needs, then you really shouldn't be even charging them with that, you know? So that's something that happens. And this particular judge has been trying to sanction me ever since, that date, but it's fine because I was right. And I think because I am a newer attorney, I double and triple check before I do what I'm doing. So when I go into court and I'm arguing something, I'm pretty sure on what I'm arguing because I've looked it up and I've made sure.
Let me ask you a personal question. Well, not personal, but as far as in your field, do you feel like every attorney that you've met give forth the same effort as you do? Or do you think some of them just take this as a job?
I mean, I don't want to talk about other attorneys, but
have you met any colleagues that you feel like, okay, I can work with this person, they're good to work with, they have the same passion and so forth? Have you, or is it more of a business type of field?
I think sometimes it's more business. I don't know that everyone has a passion for law. And I think it makes a really big difference when you believe in what you're doing and you have passion for it versus you not. And have I met other attorneys that I would work with? Ones that I met from law school around here, no, not really. And that's where it's like, I know that a lot of times like public defenders get a bad rap, but I would say that some of the really best attorneys I've seen were public defenders in Southern California. But I guess I'm just really picky on who I would work with, without
the reason why I asked that question is I'm wondering if you get backlash for how much effort you put into this. Like, is there like, I'm pretty sure some of the judges and DAs, oh, here she comes, we don't want to see her coming in. I mean, I'm just wondering if you get a lot of backlash because of the effort you put into your clients.
I mean, sometimes I've had comments made to me before, and but I think and there's been things that have gotten back to me where it's almost like sometimes maybe DAs too, maybe sometimes possibly want to challenge me because it's gotten back to me that I have a reputation that, okay, she's going to fight. So I know that there are some DAs that they won't give me any offers at all. And I'm watching all these other attorneys get offers. And I'm just like, I just have to be ready to scrap, I guess. We got to go to trial in every single case, But
you're going to trial on most cases?
Yeah, I mean, I got to get ready to go. Yeah, because in one of the counties in particular, it got, I've had one time I had a DA that told me he was, it was a case that wasn't the best, and he said that we could negotiate, he could get back to me in 2-3 days, and all of a sudden he comes back to me and it's completely different person, no offers, it's going to be this, and I was like, wait, what happened? And so I received information a little while later that there was, word in the DA's office that, I fight. So I don't know if it's like an ego thing, but there's certain cases that absolutely 100% need to go to trial. And I have a lot of those cases that I feel should go to trial. And then there's some cases where it would make more sense to negotiate. And then I have some cases where I want to take it to trial. My client says, no, I just want this out of my hair. And so then I try to negotiate. So now I have to be mindful with certain DAs and in certain counties that, okay, like, and I tell people honestly, because I had a call recently where I just want a deal, and I looked at it and I looked at where it was at, and I said, I'm probably not the attorney for you, because if you retain me, we have to fight. Like, there's no way, like, we have to take it all the way, you know,
Yeah.
but that's
You know what,
fine.
man?
I mean, you know.
That's awesome because, during my criminal tenure, right, when I was doing what I was doing, I never seen attorneys that were like that. Like, never. Like, they would like always want to come back and have you plead or go to Romero motions and all this stuff, man. And you didn't see people go to trial. The only time you seen people go to trial back then was mainly murder cases. So take us through a typical type of case that you're looking for, that you're ready gun ho to go for it.
Well, you said I love gang cases. I would say I specialize in violent crimes. A lot of my cases are attempted murder, up to, well, I have one case right now that they're actually trying to use to bring back the death penalty in California. It's a
Oh,
gang
wow.
case, and they're trying to, take it to Sacramento. I don't believe it's going to be successful, but they're going to try. Um, but I like wiretap cases. And then I really just like messy cases, I think that especially taking gang cases where, and just cases in general where a lot of people don't want to take the stand, a lot of my clients don't want to take the stand, it's made me think more creatively. So I'm just really fascinated by, an issue that looks messy, where I'm like, okay, how do I figure out how to make this work, where, how do I present this evidence when this person might not want to come to court, or my client won't take the stand, or, various reasons. But I love gang homicides, and I love homicides in general. That's basically another reason why I moved up here, to take more of those.
What about the Operation Quiet Storm? Have you had any knowledge to look through any of the court transcripts that's going on, or no?
Are you talking about the one that was Quiet Storm, that was a few months ago? That was a federal case, right?
Yes.
I got called for that, and I didn't end up taking it, and I haven't heard what's been going on with it recently. I imagine it's moving slow because it's still in the feds, right?
Yes. Well, some of them just took deals, man. Like a couple people got 88 months. The time
Oh,
wasn't really.
really?
Yeah, it was mainly for conspiracy to. All these cases are conspiracy, which is what I want to talk about, because you just mentioned wiretaps, but I also want to talk about conspiracies. Conspiracy seems like the most hardest crime to probably fight. Is there
Well,
state conspiracy charges, or is it only federal?
so there's state and federal, but for state, it's interesting because I've had people where they're being charged with a conspiracy, and the main thing with conspiracy is you have to have an overt act, and an overt act is something that you did to further the conspiracy that can be proven. And I've seen, I just feel like a lot of times, like, people are just overcharged. I feel like sometimes they bank on you getting an attorney that's going to just have you plea out. Because I've looked at some of these conspiracy cases, and I have one right now that no, I have two right now, that there's no act. There's no, there's not enough. And it's different. It's a lower standard for the feds. It's much easier to prove in the feds. But in fact, I had seen a case about 2 years ago in the feds where a guy was brokering dope. So he was just talking to A and then talking to C, and he was setting up, but he wasn't even leaving. And he was convicted of life in the feds.
Wow.
In state, that's much harder to do. You have to show that someone actually made a volitional movement, or did something, or met up with someone. And so that's why with state, a lot of times you'll see where someone has hand-to-hand contact, someone drops off dope, picks up dope or whatever, and then they get pulled over right after for a broken taillight or tint or something else that's, and then that's how they get them typically.
Okay. So what about the wiretap cases? I mean, those are basically tapping phone lines.
Yeah, so it's tapping phone lines, and a lot of times where I see how these wiretap cases start is a lot of times with state is they start out trying to solve a homicide or something like that, and the sheriffs start listening to your phone calls and when someone's inside of custody, and they hear something that sounds like it could be a crime, and then they request a warrant for a wiretap. Now, each warrant for a wiretap lasts 30 days. So in that 30 days, so say like person A is in custody, they talk to person B, and they're talking about dope or running guns or something. So they say, okay, we're going to get a warrant on person B. Person B is out of custody. So person B in that 30 days, well, they're talking to person C, D, and E, and they're talking about running dope, running guns, and doing all this other stuff, which sounds like a crime. So then that allows law enforcement in that time. First of all, it gives them probable cause to request another wiretap for another 30 days. but then it's going to allow them to talk to person C, D, and E, or it's going to allow them to get a wiretap on them, I'm sorry, for 30 days. So it can spread and it can continue with all these different persons. That's why these wiretaps are a lot of times so big.
So how often does that happen? I mean, because I've been where people just start getting paranoid, like, hey, don't talk on the phone. Like, do they really do that much wiretap cases? Because I haven't really seen that many as far as phones being tapped.
Yes, they do. They do a lot of wiretaps. Yes, and in fact, like I think one of my phones is tapped. I kind of got confirmation of that yesterday. So I've been thinking it for the last year and a half because I'll hear certain things. But yes, it will. And the other thing too is that what can happen, and this is the scary part about it, is you can have someone that is, let's say, okay, so the gang member talking to a gang member, right? But they're talking about something else. They're talking about something that's not related to dope or not related to guns or not related to any type of crime. And they're talking about, they could be talking about anything. They could be talking about a product. They could be talking about a vehicle, but they could talk about something like this. But I've seen it happen before with talking about a vehicle. So what can happen is that if they're not really clear on what they're talking about, is they can have the DA can basically put a narcotics expert, for example, on the stand and be like, oh, this word that he says, in my experience, in my training experience, that means heroin or that means cocaine. Therefore, this is sales. And then what they do is they bank on the fact is, okay, this guy's on paperwork as having priors. He's probably not going to get on the stand. He is on paperwork for being associated with the gang. He's probably not going to get on a stand. So, and it's really hard to fight those because the jury can see, oh, this is someone working for the DAs. Oh, they're a cop. Like, why would they lie? When they're over here making up these ridiculous things and just being like, well, in my experience, no, I know that word means that,
Check this out. So I read old cases, right? Especially from where I'm from. And one of the cases was one where I think it was Detective Livingston. He was giving his expert witness on something, right? And they were talking about a dude named Shorty that was calling to the streets about telling him to get rid of the gold rims, go get his gold rims and sell them. And he said that was code for selling drugs. No, he bought those rims. He bought those rims off me. It was actually some gold Dayton rims I sent him, but they interpreted it as being drugs. And I'm like 100% for sure. I know those are my rims,
right?
Because he left them out there in the streets, and they went there and they twisted it and said that was code for drugs when it wasn't.
And so what is the avenue to show that that's a lie? Yes, you can attack them. But the best way to do it is to get the person that was get both people that were talking about the gold rims, but they don't want to get on the stand, which is reasonable because it's going to open the door to ask more stuff. So they kind of know they have you in a corner, and it makes it more difficult because I'm like, okay, and I get it, and it's annoying too because I feel sometimes it's a lower standard on who should be classified as an expert, So I've seen all types of things made up, but it's just, I would just say that, and the thing is too, is that once you're involved or once your name is on one wiretap, in my opinion, from what I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years, because I worked on wiretaps in Southern California, if your name is mentioned in a wiretap, even if you are not apprehended on charges, even if charges are never brought, you need to watch because sorry. I've seen people where they were mentioned in one wiretap and they weren't brought up on charge in that, but then another wiretap came up and then they're on the radar again. So you just need to be very clear on if you've ever been involved in a wiretap or talking to someone that might be wiretap, which, you're not going to know. You need to be very clear on what you're speaking about. Very, very clear, and make it extremely clear that it can't be manipulated into a code, into something. It could be something else.
Let me ask you this. Are apps like WhatsApp and all these encrypted apps, can they decode those? Have you seen those in any cases yet?
I was told that WhatsApp is still safe, and I am not really sure, but that was the last I heard, that it was encrypted. I know that there was like something with, weren't they saying that it was like someone broke into it? It was something with Trump. there's something like a year and a half. I can't even
Well,
remember.
I think if they really, really want to spend the money and do the research, they have to go through different layers because it has to go through some process, I was told, but it just takes too much time. It's just too time consuming. But I was just
But
curious if you're,
what made me nervous though is I think Facebook owns WhatsApp now, right?
yeah, and they share everything.
I know. And so I have not yet seen a WhatsApp extraction. I have cases dealing with, black box extractions, Facebook extractions, Google Geofunds, Gmail, everything else, Snapchat. And that's the other thing people need to understand. Like your messages, like I don't know why people might not still know this. Your messages do not go away on Snapchat. You guys need to understand
What about
that.
on YouTube? What about on YouTube? Because we get these people who make like crazy threats and stuff like that at times, trolls and cyberbullying and all kinds of shit. Is there still stuff available for us to locate them as well?
So the way that it's been explained to me with my digital experts and other digital experts I've spoken to is it leaves an imprint, so you can still you can still restore that information. So it's made me think differently. Like even if, and I was even told by a digital expert that I met in Las Vegas at a seminar that if I need to not sell my old cell phones either, because even though I restore it to factory settings, it can still, all my information can be restored. I was told that if
Okay.
I put my cell phone, how many times have you gone into a rental car and then and put your cell phone to the rental car? That has all your information. So I'm been trying to think about how many rental cars I've done that with. I will never
Yeah,
do it
true.
again. But yes, from my understanding, it can all be restored.
So you have
So
a digital expert, you said?
yes,
You're in
I
company?
have really good digital expert.
If you can hook me up with their 411 because I got a couple of things I want to talk to them about.
Yes,
Most
yeah,
likely.
because
Yeah,
he's excellent. Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's like
you
the
guys have
reason
had some trolling and stuff?
trolling. So I want to kind of locate a few of them. You know what I mean? Like just not to, you know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah, because all
cyber
these people do is they
cyberbullying at
talk a
the
bunch
highest.
of shit on. Yeah.
Yeah. So
What?
if we can expose, if you have that resource, I appreciate that, man. And I'm
Yeah,
on.
I will.
Okay,
No,
most
he's
definitely.
he's excellent. Yeah.
Cool. So man, let's talk about how your how business is going. I mean, how many clients are you getting right now? Is it going smooth or?
It's been a little bit slower because of the holidays, and then it just started picking back up this week. I think so. Right now, we're at the time where the judges are like, okay, well, the holidays are coming up. Let's put everything out till February. Crime is, of course, never stopping, especially in communities like this. But I just think that people are just trying to get through the holidays, and so it's been a little bit slower. But there's been no shortage of shootings and around here especially. So, but it's just this week it's been picking up, which has been nice, because I want to stay busy and I've closed out quite a few cases in the last month. So I'm just like ready. But I have a lot of cases also going to trial next year, early next year, January, February. So I just want to also be mindful of that too and just not take on too much. So I have to take that into consideration when I start taking cases. Okay, I have this huge case I just got. Like, how many other cases of this magnitude can I take? Because I just don't want to get where people are getting lost in the mix. That's really important that doesn't happen for me.
So yeah, that's awesome. So I remember when we first talked, you wanted to do some eventually nonprofit stuff. I mean, have you
Yes,
started looking into that? I mean, where you at on
I
that?
I haven't, because what I need a lot more employees, and I probably need another attorney. And before I can actually do that, because I have to, my cases, they're my baby right now, and I'm working hand in hand with my paralegal. She's great. My staff is great, but I think I need a much larger staff to be able to do that. That way I can kind of take myself a little bit away and then look into other things. I think out here it's a little bit harder, but I'm looking to expand and open up another office next year. And so hopefully I can get some more employees so I can start doing that. 'Cause that's really what I want to do, because I
That would
can't
be
tell you. Yeah.
I'm just thinking when you said that'd be awesome to have, like, your law firm recruiting young lawyers that are eager about bringing justice to like the urban
Yes.
communities, the rural areas where there's gang violence, because you don't see that. You don't see anybody that's promoting that type of avenue for her. That'd be awesome, man. Like,
I'm always, I'm always open to it. And in fact, like, when my paralegal first started, she was talking about doing something else. And I think now she might be interested in law school. And I'm completely elated because from the very beginning, when I met her, I was like, oh, she would be such a great attorney. And so that's why I wish I want more of her. So if someone were to cross my path and they had the same energy as her and they cared about what they were doing and they cared about other people, like, yeah, come on. It's just, it's harder because it's this, in my opinion, it's your passion first. And it's about caring about helping others. And then you follow your passion first and the money's going to follow, so if I've had other people where I thought maybe were like that, but then I ended up testing them and they always fail. But no, she's been great. So I could see her I know she's going to be a great attorney. So I'm just elated. I just wanted her to make that decision for herself that she wanted to do that.
Okay, I got a two-part question here. I know as an attorney, you have to put your personal opinion on a matter sometimes to the side and go with what the law says, right? Mm-hmm. What is your opinion on the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict?
Man, I just
from a legal standpoint, like there's so many lawyers that have so many different debates on it, but a lot of times I feel like they're taking their personal attachment to it and they're applying it.
I don't feel like he had any first of all, there's no defensive property. You can't use deadly force for defending property, and that's what he was out there doing. And I don't feel like he had any business carrying around that firearm. I don't feel like he needed to go there and protect that business. That business was just fine. And it almost kind of reminds me of someone that's an initial aggressor on a crime. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait, I'm the victim. The verdict did help in a way where it kind of opened the door more so for self-defense cases. If you think that someone is trying to grab your weapon, it did help in that way. But I feel that his actions, I like what it did, how even though it's another state, I like what it did because it just caught so much attention. But do I agree?
They had the one in Florida too. They had the one in Florida at the same time. Do you remember that?
Are you talking about the popcorn movie trial? The guy that killed the guy in the theater? Or no?
They were trying to serve a warrant and they didn't notify him. They just started throwing grenades through the house and he just started shooting because he didn't know who it was. They killed his girlfriend.
Oh, yes. Right. And there really needs to be, knock and announce and announcing your presence and police officers going in. There's no law on that. There really should be because there's certain requirements and stuff like that, but it's not in law. And if it's not backed by law, you can't really go after it. But there needs to be changes with that because there was quite a few of those in the last couple years. Yes. But no, I don't think that Rittenhouse should have. Personally, he had no business. If you don't know how to use, first of all, again, no defensive property. But if you don't know how to use a firearm, and if you're just taking it where you don't belong, and you're just going to show up and then claim victim, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think he should have been there at his age either. I get stuck on the if you're being attacked, it's like this. Okay, if I'm being attacked like that, I'm going to shoot back too.
Right.
I'm going to defend myself. That's
you also right.
You've never been there though either. Though you're right about that.
But you saw and maybe it would have been a different result if the DA on that case was. I mean, he was dirty. You know what I mean? And it was so abundantly clear. And then his defense attorneys, they were so passionate about his case. And that I really feel like made a difference the way that they, because they were just more real and all, the DA didn't have to do what he did and the way that he handled the case, which I think made it just not even just from an attorney looking, but I think a regular person could look and be like, wow, like what, So I think that made a difference. And sometimes that does.
Okay. Well, I know you're busy, so I want you to sit there and this is the final thought of the day. I want you to tell everybody like any advice that you have for anybody going through any criminal cases or charges, or some of you guys have warrants out there that have reached out to me recently. Man, touch base with her. She'll tell you exactly. Hire her on. She's the best attorney in California. You know what I'm saying? And one of the most attractive ones as well. So you get 2 bonuses right there, guys. So you know what I mean? Hit her up. I'm gonna put your link down there, but I want you to give a final thought with all the viewers.
Final thought I want to give that's come up a lot in the last 2 years is with my clients is um, you need to know who your friends are. You need to know who your homies are. And not just that, when you get into a vehicle with another person, if you don't know what's in that car or what's going on, it could end up burning you. If you go to a house and one of your friends is strapped and they decide to kill someone and you don't know, you could be facing 25 to life. And I have had cases where people have been charged with having illegal ammunition that was in someone else's pocket, but they were next to them. And then I've had cases where someone doesn't know if there's dope or guns in the trunk, and then they're arrested and they're a passenger and they get charged with it. Just because if your friend does decide to take the rap, just because they do that doesn't mean that they have to drop the charges against you. Okay. So, and then if you go and you're standing with someone and then all of a sudden someone decides to bring out a knife and stab them, I mean, I have a case like that right now. You could be going down for it too. So you really need to be choosy on who you surround yourself with, or be prepared to face the consequences. And I will tell you that, once people get in custody, there is no loyalty. So you might think that there's loyalty now, family bonds or whatever, but family bonds break apart in custody. I've seen it with clients. So do friendships. So does loyalty, and definitely, gang membership. So you really need to think about that and just be aware of it. And don't, and if you don't know and you're getting into someone's car or you're next to someone, you don't know what's going on, just be prepared, because your family and your loved ones are going to be there to pick up the pieces. The people that you thought were your friends are a lot of times are going to be the first ones running to snitch. Oh, it was him. It was her. So be mindful of that.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for having me on. We'll have you on again in like a month or two again, because they're awesome. They're awesome, man. So, hey, thank you guys out there. Please check out her Facebook, her IG. I'm gonna post a link if you guys are guys, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Thank you, Flacco. Have a good day. Nice seeing you again.